You're listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring clinical and forensic psychologist Joni Johnston.
I've been swaying both ways on this every time I look at it. There's so many cases where it feels like their warning signs are all there, and certainly they are here with Paul Ferguson. There was accounts from many other people, even people who had nothing to do with his brother, that Paul thoroughly enjoyed being a torturous, mean bully of a child to other people. And I mean, very much obviously at the behest of his mother. That's kind of what he was trained and conditioned to be, but was really just a very horrible type human being to many people. So a judge looking at all of that, looking at all these accounts and all these testimonies, saying, okay, maybe he realizes that, that was wrong, or he got caught at it. Was he, taking a step in the right direction, saying, we don't need you. Society's not going to be any better with you in it, basically. So it's probably best that you stay out of it before whatever happens in his behavior, because of what he's conditioned to believe he can do, should do, before he harms someone else. Because I don't know. I mean, I look at this and I go,
these crimes occurred.
Yeah, it'd be very likely that he could just get right back out there into society. And I
also think it would be, again, this is my professional opinion. I think that when you have somebody who had those circumstances in terms of the crimes he committed and the actions he was doing, I would have liked to have seen, at least at some point, 10 years down the road, 15 down the road, at least a reevaluation.
Yeah.
Of how he has done in the past 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not arguing this person should be let out. I don't think he should be let out.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that kind of violence risk should be evaluated regularly, or, no matter when he's going to get out. And then he has an extensive parole when he does get out. He has to check in. So I think there are some safeguards that could have been put in place that would allow him to have at least been reevaluated sooner.
What kind of outlook exists for someone like Paul Ferguson with some sort of rehabilitative therapy to not be the monster that he's been brought up to?
Well, I think, it's interesting. I mean, I think depending upon the choices he makes, I mean, it's very difficult. I worked in a prison for a couple of years, and I can tell you that, surviving in prison can be very different or feel very different than surviving outside of prison. And sometimes I think that inmates get into kind of a catch-22 when you do the things that you need to do to survive and stay safe. Those are things that are going to argue against you when you are up for parole, for example. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think that our prison system is moving toward more of a rehabilitation model, and that there is programming available for inmates. Now, depending on your security level, he's going to have to earn, a security level that will allow him to participate in some of those programs. So to some extent, even though he's going to have, no freedom, he mm-hmm. will have some choice in terms of how much he wants to get involved in programming. And there's programming that involves everything from criminal thinking and understanding that to, life choices to, domestic violence. I mean, there's a wealth of programs that's often available, again, depending upon your security level. And those are things that I have seen have an impact over time. I mean, I've even seen individuals who, started programming because for very cynical reasons. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm up for parole in 5 years or 10 years, so I better start doing some programming, because if I don't, then it's not going to look good. That's the only reason I'm programming. I've seen people who did it that way and never benefited from it because that was mm-hmm. their goal. But I've also seen individuals who started out that way who then no one was more surprised than they were mm-hmm. that they actually started benefiting from it and got more involved and really made some different choices. And when they got released, they haven't gone back to prison. So a lot of it is going to be in his lap mm-hmm. in terms of how he wants to steer his life from here on out.
It's very much, if you're motivated, if you realize there's a problem and you want to fix it, the opportunities are there. But if you aren't, you basically stay stagnant.
Absolutely. Or you can actually, in some respects, although I know that, given some of the things that he did, it's hard to imagine necessarily going backwards, but certainly there are opportunities to get involved in criminal activity inside of a prison. So sure. People can get in there and continue that lifestyle, or even, join prison gangs or whatever. So the option can, see, which is, engage in more criminal activity. Hopefully that won't be the path that he chooses.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.